Now, for Scottie Scheffler, who coming into the week ended up dead tied with Rory McIlroy as the odds-on favorite to win this PGA Championship. Coming in, he was asked about trying to stay present on the golf course, be where your feet are, if you will, having momentum coming into the week of a major championship. And he was asked about, because of all the rain, the course conditions.
I think a lot of times at majors you can almost over-prepare. So coming in this week, making sure you're rested. It's a big golf course, and it's pretty wet out there, but the greens are still staying pretty firm. They're still fairly new, and when you get that new Bermuda, the greens can stay firm, and so golf course will play long, but it should be a good test. It'd be silly to say that I can't ride the positive momentum from a good week like that. I mean, to finish off that tournament the way I did and have it not really be too close on the back nine. I mean, I played some really nice golf, and I talked a little bit about how I felt like my game was trending, and so it was nice to see some results from a lot of hard work to start the year, and I feel like my game's in a good spot, and so I think it'd be silly to say I can't ride a little bit of that momentum going into this tournament. Well, I just felt like my swing was coming around. I felt like my ball striking maybe held me back a little bit at the beginning of the year, and I kept the ball. I drove it really nice last week at the Byron and hit some really good iron shots, and was able to give myself a lot of looks around that golf course, what you need to do, and was able to hold some putts as well. I think it's always a battle to try to stay in the present. I think when I was in college, my college coach did a really good job of helping me kind of learn that skill. He really preached on when you're at the golf course, you're at the golf course. When you're in class, you're in class. And, when I'm out doing stuff with my friends, like I don't want to be at home hanging out with my wife thinking about my golf swing. I don't want to be out here at the golf course thinking about being at home. Like we have certain time throughout the day, and I think when you're in the present, you're able to make the most of those situations, whether it be, enjoying them to the fullest or getting the most out of the work that I put in when I'm at the golf course. So I think it's a constant battle.
Really interesting stuff there from Scottie Scheffler because, and in particular, I've noticed it in 2025, that Scottie Scheffler seems to be getting more comfortable with opening up with all of us. I'd say with the media, but it's not really with the media. He knows he's speaking to the world of golf, and he's giving us more than what he used to. And that idea of mindset, when I'm away from the golf, I'm away from the golf, and when I'm inside and devoted to the golf, I'm 100% where I need to be. I thought it was fascinating stuff. Bryson DeChambeau is also always obviously fascinating. Coming into the week, and again with this philosophy of why we do this, he was asked about contending and contending consistently in major championships. Who is he today as a competitor in that regard? His reaction that he got from and since winning the U.S. Open last year at Pinehurst, has it kind of changed him, redefined him, or just revealed him from that standpoint? And how excited he is coming into the week about Quail Hollow.
Well, I remember you've got to drive it well. And so far I've been driving it well this season. Hopefully it continues. Greens are tricky. Got to have great irons. I mean, you got to come in with a full, complete set of clubs that you feel comfortable with attacking flags at, and just strategizing your way around the golf course. So it's got to be a full test of golf this week, and I'm certainly excited for the challenge. Yeah, I think that it's been quite special for me seeing everybody give me praise and whatnot. Although I don't feel like I always deserve it. I'm just very blessed to have that type of following now and continue to grow it. I want to do more than just the game of golf. I want to grow outside of the game of golf. I want to bring other golfers that have never seen the game of golf into golf. And YouTube's been a great platform to do that. I've been very blessed and fortunate to have partners at YouTube and Google now. And I'm super excited to see what the future holds, because there's a lot more room to grow. Yeah, I feel like I've always had the capacity to play well in major championships and contend consistently. A lot of things have to go right in majors for you to play well, and your whole game has to be on. And so I felt like at Valhalla, especially after Augusta, that was the second time that I'd played well in a major. And it kind of gave me that confidence I could just keep moving forward with that at every major, and keep hammering down on majors and besides the Open Championship, which I feel like is something I've got to continue to work on, which I am rigorously working on. I feel like I'm moving in the right direction with giving myself a lot of multiple chances to win these major championships. So I felt like at Valhalla last year, it was more of an assurance of saying, hey, I can do this, and I can do this for a long time. God willing. So I'm going to continue to just try and play my best golf. Hopefully that expresses itself positively this week and in future weeks at different majors and even at live events. But my goal is to play the best every single week I possibly can. But Valhalla definitely gave me some confidence for the rest of the majors last year and then even this year.
Really interesting to hear from Bryson DeChambeau, because as I enjoy seeing from young athletes is to watch them mature right before our eyes, watch them become who they eventually are going to be. And we can see that with Bryson, even though I feel a lot of our perception and understanding of Bryson as a person has been what I led into his sound with, a revelation versus a change. There is a maturity factor that's there too. I think it's a self-awareness that Bryson has become better with, and we're getting to see the Bryson who he is, who is a very, very generous person, willing to give of himself in a way that kind of stands alone, honestly, amongst the players at the top of the field. So many eyes, of course, were on Justin Thomas coming into this week. And he was asked about a number of different things. He was asked in his press conference about, what he thinks about Rory as a driver of the golf ball. I love the question he was asked about whether he possesses a competitive jealousy. Here's Justin Thomas.
Definitely. I feel, especially Hilton Head, and Tampa too. I'm just more patient, I'd say. I don't feel like I'm forcing the issue as much. Just trying to trust, my game and myself quite a bit more. I feel like some of the events maybe earlier this year or last year where I had a chance to win, I just felt like I maybe pressed a little too much. But, it's we all want to win, and I'm no different. I just think sometimes you're in a better headspace than others to try and capitalize or to give yourself a chance. And I feel like that's kind of how it's been the last couple events. It's tough to say. I think that the thing you have when you're young is not that I don't have any fear now, but I was very fortunate to have success at a young age. But when you're 23, 24 years old, it's just like, what you don't have anything else to think about or to have to worry about. You don't have any scar tissue. You don't have any experience. It's just like, hey, the PGA that I played here in 17, like it was just my third PGA I've ever played in. So it's, the only real time I had a chance to win, I was in the final group at Erin Hills earlier that year. So it's like, it's just earlier in your career, it's a different, it's similar mindset of obviously we want to win, we have a lot of fire and we work hard, but it's a different kind of thing. But I feel great about my game. I would like to think and hope I'm a more mature person and golfer. But I don't think it's fair to play the comparison game, and I just I believe and I hope, but firmly believe that some of my best is still ahead of me, and I know that I have that in there. I just have to kind of go find it and prove it. A lot. It's I remember that a lot from my first couple of years on tour in Jordan, having a lot of success and playing well, and it is. Over the course of your career, you're obviously it's not like when you're in college and you have someone that turns pro early and they're winning tour events and you're like, I've beaten him before or kind of thing. It's like we obviously all beat each other quite often, but it's I have a lot of faith and a lot of ability or trust in my ability and feel like I have confidence and I feel like what I can do. So I told Jill after watching the Masters, it was like, of course, and obviously I knew I've always wanted to win the Grand Slam, want to win all the majors. But for some reason, like watching somebody do it firsthand, it reminded me almost of like, damn, yeah, I forgot. I really do want to do that. Kind of, it's weird. It's something I think all of us, some sort of certain people maybe hit us a little different ways in terms of jealousy or drive or whatever you want to call it. But anytime someone wins that isn't me, that I'm, if it's a friend, I'm obviously happy for him, but there's always going to be a part of me that's jealous and wishes it was me. I think you'd be kind of crazy to say otherwise. I would argue he's the best driver of the ball I've ever seen, and that is extremely important here. But I think his shot shape, I think this golf course fits a high draw really, really well. There's a lot of tee shots, whether it's holding fairways or fitting dog legs, taking bunkers out of play, whatever it is. And then I mean, he just has, when he's on, he has such control at that driver. It seems like he can hit it, in a window and an area that some guys are trying to hit short irons. And, I mean, that's a tremendous advantage or threat at any golf course, but I feel like a place like this where it doesn't necessarily require a lot of thought or strategy off the tee. It's generally, pulling out driver, and I need to hit this as far and straight as possible. And he's really, really good at that. So I think, that's something, like I said, is an advantage at any golf course, but I think just the shot shape and that is a good combination.
Rory is the person that JT was just talking about there with the driver and the proficiency and power of the driver on the golf course. He also mentioned about his aspirations to win a career Grand Slam, which causes one to think, could we be seeing the first generation of golfers where we have multiple players, talking about maybe 3 or 4 or 5 players that have the chance to and perhaps even accomplish the career Grand Slam within the same era, because there's a lot of players that are starting to knock on that door. That's a good place to start with mindset coming into the week of Jordan Spieth, who was asked about how much he's thinking about the Grand Slam this week.
I don't think so. It's been more, I've been surprised at, there's been a number of years I've come to the PGA and no one's really even asked me about it. And there's been some years where, where it was, a storyline, I guess. It's funny, I think if Rory didn't, then it wouldn't have been a storyline for me here necessarily. I mean, it's always a storyline if I work my way in, but at least ahead of time, I've just felt like I've been asked about it more than, other years, including years where I've come in, I want to say 22, I came in after winning and then finishing second back-to-back, which I would have thought would be a time where that would have been one. So I've kind of been surprised by the dynamic a little bit. But, it's always circled on the calendar for me. It's I guess if I could only win one tournament the rest of my life, I'd pick this one for that reason. And obviously watching Rory win after, giving it a try for a number of years was inspiring. You could tell he was it was a harder win than most of the time. He makes it look a lot easier. And so that obviously was on the forefront of his mind. And so something like that has not been done by many people, and there's a reason why. And but I'd love to throw my hat in the ring and give it a chance come the weekend this week. I think it's more about the golf courses than it is anything else. They're just going to present a little more of a challenge in a different way, and each major is different from the next and what that challenge is. But whether that's side to miss on the fairway that you might get away with in a PGA Tour event that you don't get away with in a major. It's just a little bit of an extra level of course management, and it's ahead of time. It's a lot of the course management preparation that's more of kind of the mental side. But the crowds are bigger, the grandstands are bigger. That over time kind of just becomes a blur. We always have huge crowds at this event. It's and a lot of amphitheater type seating here at Quail Hollow. So I don't think it'll look as different as maybe when we go to an unfamiliar place with huge, like Valhalla last year with huge setups, but we don't know the course very well. So it all just, is a big thing. This is normal for here. Things, obviously they're not triple decker, they're maybe double decker, right? The PGA, always throws in some pretty incredible grandstands, whether it be the PGA Championship or the Ryder Cup. So everything's just a little bit more heightened. But I think it's more ahead of time, and as you start to get into it, I think it's actually a little easier on the mental side, easier than it is ahead of time. It just kind of settles into more of a normal tournament. As you start to contend on the weekend, that changes. You sleep a little uneasy. I mean, majors have that, historical, presence to them. They mean more to every player that's playing this week. We'll tell you if they were going to win one of 4 tournaments, they'd probably pick one of the 4 majors. So that settles in, as you work your way into contention, and then that becomes a little bit of a different animal, just sleeping a little more uneasy and anticipation. And I think it's all the off the course stuff that's harder to handle mentally than on the course. Not necessarily. I think the longer lever and the more full shots last year were better for me with where my mechanics were off. And that would be, I was not in a place that I've played very good golf from, but because it was a longer lever, the timing was just easier hitting full shots with the driver. Not to mention, I mean, the drivers that I have now are just incredible. I mean, the improvement Titleist has made in their drivers, like the miss hits being just as fast and just as straight. I think the technology has a lot to do with it. But you're looking at strokes gained, so it's relative to everybody else having better technology too. I was just more comfortable in full hard shots, and yeah, it was coincidental that the driving was better and the approach wasn't. I mean, I wasn't mechanically sound to hit, all the shots needed to have an approach game that was, up there with the best of them. So pushing drive, I didn't try to become a better driver by any means. I was just, it just kind of happened. And this year, it feels pretty good. And luckily, I think, I'm on the right path to having everything kind of follow it right behind it.
Isn't that fascinating? I mean, isn't it great when we get a chance to hear directly from the players, to hear what's in their thoughts, hearts, and minds? And I love to hear from them and their mindset and their thinking at the start of a major championship week. Yeah, we have the luxury of looking back and having the ability to have, retrospect on whether their mindset, their approach, their strategy was correct or not. But the bigger point that I'm trying to make is I think it's great when we get to hear directly from the players instead of just hearing from pundits, with all due respect, that are trying to impress you with their interpretation. Why not hear directly from the players and let them speak for themselves? I love it. Speaking of which, Xander Schauffele last year got it all started with the PGA Championship, an absolutely historic season for him. And he starts with this sound talking to us about what his mindset is like when in contention.
I mean, I think when you're in a position to win, you sort of forget, you don't really hang your hat on anything that can kind of bring you down. I think when, like coming back from injury earlier this year, I'm nitpicking myself around every corner versus when I'm in sort of mid-season form, I'm hitting the similar quality shots or bad shots or good shots, across the board. And the difference really is when you're in the moment, I think you don't nitpick. You're just on a mission. You're on a mission to do one thing, and that's to win. And it's sort of a whatever it takes mentality. And you're not sitting there nitpicking yourself on sort of the small things, or if you mishit it or you miss your line by a little bit, things of that nature. So it's been a process for me to get back to that point where I'm okay with, hitting bad shots or, hitting it out of place and just making the best of it and sort of moving along from there and allowing myself to get a good 9-hole stretch in and go low. So that's been a process coming back and thinking back to the 72nd hole there. I was just in a good state of mind. All I was trying to do was win that tournament. And it didn't matter if, I had to hit a shot lefty on the last hole. I wasn't going to be rattled. I think when you look at just the statistics that way, I think you'll just point, there's probably an emphasis or a certain weight that driving carries if you're able to hit it in the fairway and hit a certain distance. But shoot, I mean, you can hit in the fairway all day and miss a lot of greens and you're going to have a really tough go around. So, I think it's a really tough golf course. I think everyone knows what they need to do. There's no sort of trick to play this golf course. A lot of people will hit it to the same spot. A lot of people will miss it to the same spot as well. And it's about who, it's not bad because it's like who can get up and down better when they're out of position and then who can capitalize when they're in a good position. So it seems to be pretty fair. And yes, maybe it does err, or, if you do hit it far, it does help. But for the most part, I think it's a pretty fair property. I think in terms of growing the game at some point, making it global, it's always been a little bit global, but making it a global sport, I'm sure that's something that the tour is looking at. I would be shocked if they weren't. So having big events in Ireland or in England or in somewhere in Europe or in Asia or in Australia. I think there are certain markets for it. It just needs to make sense and the timing needs to work. And then I think if you make it make sense for everyone, then I think you'd see a lot more players doing it.
There's a growing murmur in the game, whispers really, about the idea of taking a major championship such as the PGA Championship, a concept that was originally floated by Ted Bishop when he was president of the PGA of America. So credit where it's due with Ted and his vision, where he said, maybe once a decade you take the PGA Championship and you move it outside of the United States. You go someplace globally. And he initially suggested Ireland as a great place to bring it. I think it's a brilliant idea to take the PGA Championship and make it more of a global major instead of 3 of the 4 majors just be anchored in the USA. I think it's just a brilliant, brilliant idea with all the great golf courses that are around the world and the ability and the impact that it would have to grow the game in these different areas. Speaking about an international player, it is certainly that of Jon Rahm. And he had a really interesting answer when he was asked about what he's learned about skill set, mindset in contending in majors.
You always feel like to win a major, you have to play perfect, which is not true, right? I remember the RNA did this 20-minute little documentaries with Open champions, and Padraig Harrington said, I think it was at Muirfield in 2002 when he played about as good as he could play and didn't win, and he got to the point where he thought he had to get lucky to win a major championship. I think that's a little bit of part of it, but at the end of the day, it's just a lot of it is, keep playing good golf, keep playing solid golf, and take advantage of the good stretches you're going to have throughout the week. But by any means, you don't have to play perfect. It's funny, a few times I've gone back and seen reruns of some of my rounds, like both Sundays, and especially the one at the US Open. I thought I played so good, and I didn't realize how many fairways I missed and how many shots that I considered that weren't good, but did all the things right to minimize the damage, right? So it's funny, I think 9-10 years ago I was thinking I had to play my absolute best in every aspect of the game, and I think if anything, just have to have full faith in all aspects of your game and just learn how to manage the golf course that week. Yeah, of course. I mean, only, 6 people now in history that have been able to do it? Yeah. I mean, I would love to do it. Obviously, it's not easy. And I think, obviously, it would be a lot more in my mind if I were to win a 3rd different one, kind of like Jordan has been able to do. But as in right now, if I ever had a thought, I would focus more on quantity of majors rather than which ones, right? Obviously. In the sense of, let's say I never achieve it, I'd rather have a situation like Sir Nick Faldo, where he has 6 of 2 of them, instead of having maybe 3 different ones, right? If that makes any sense. So now if we get all 4 of them, if you won each one once, I think it's so significant that you might take that over 6, right? So, but as in right now, I'd rather just think more about number 3, and if it happens to be the Open or the PGA, then I'll focus on a possible Grand Slam. But as in right now, I don't want to think about it too much. But yeah, of course, I think it's a goal of all of us who play the game. I'm aware it's been probably the one haven't been my best at. I think my best finish was Belle Reeve, I think. And I think it's possibly because of the versatility and variability of this event. Like when you go to Augusta, you know what you're getting. Same course every year too. The US Open, 9 out of 10 times you know what you're getting depending on weather. And same at the Open, right? It'll be firmer or less, but you know what you're getting. Is this championship that would change venues and drastically change the way they set it up? Like the way a Southern Hills might play to the way this week might play to the way a Bethpage might play. They're all drastically different, right? So it's possibly the difference, which is more about, okay, your game needs to be a very high level as opposed to possibly the other 3 that you can adjust a little bit more knowing what's coming. At that point, that's just a bit speculation. I think it's just more coincidence that I haven't played good.
I love hearing from the players like this. Absolutely fascinating to me. It is obviously always fascinating to hear from a captain of the Ryder Cup. Keegan Bradley is Team USA's captain, but Keegan is of an age and of a game such that his name is actually in the mix to be on the team, but he's captain of the team. So the questions start with, what kind of captain will you be?
Yeah, I think we have to see how the team takes shape here in the next couple months, but we'll definitely be using analytics to help us make the picks, along with, obviously the eye test of who we think is going to be suited for Bethpage. But I think when you get down to it, they're always really tough decisions. So the more information you can get helps you with those. But we'll see how the team takes shape in the next couple months. We had that Ryder Cup dinner the other week, but we're working every day, every week for the guys for Bethpage. But I think it's important. I know it for me as a player, I loved going to these meetings because it started to get real. Like, this is coming, and I really want to get on this team and try to motivate the guys to be excited to play for our captains that we have and get excited to play at Bethpage Black. And like I said, as a player, I was always just so excited to go to stuff like that because it's our dream to be on these teams. And even getting invited to a meeting like that is special because it means you're could make the team. This Ryder Cup and what comes with this, no one cares about what's going on in this side PGA Tour LIV. Like, we're trying to put the best team together, and it could mean there's one LIV guy, two LIV guys. That doesn't matter. We'll see how this year shakes out, but it was really great to have them all together with the guys. It's been a while since we've been able to do that. It's different this year because my main job at the Ryder Cup is to be the captain. Right now, I go about every day as the captain. I don't even think about me as a player at this point. If I get to, the end of the year and I'm in that conversation, I'll change that. But for now, I have to operate every day as if I'm the captain and make decisions as the captain. I'm not thinking of myself as a player on the team at the moment.